Okay, so I'm inside my van because the kids are playing at the park, so not terribly scenic this time, but what the heck. Hopefully you're not watching this video for the visuals. Um, so last time I was talking about how violence is decreasing, and we needed to be thankful for the fact that it is, even though it seems like it's not. And I could easily see somebody calling me out for that because school shootings are becoming more common. The University of Texas has been releasing educational information to help employees deal with mass shooting events at stores and malls and places like that. So how is violence decreasing if we've got more risk from these sorts of things? Well, these aren't likely things. School shootings, although they are becoming more common and although they are horribly tragic, are still not as common a way to die as, heart disease or car crashes, texting while driving. The real enemy here is diabetes, which does not make that any less tragic and doesn't change the fact that we do need to work on reducing these kinds of wild, random outbursts of violence. But the thing is, the reason that these are more high profile now, I think there's two reasons. We're not looking at an increase of violence per se. We're looking at a concentration of violence. For one thing, it's the thing that's left over after we've eliminated all of the violence that we do have control over. What's left is the crazy random crap. Some guy just randomly walks into a crowd of people with insert weapon here and just goes to town killing people. That's something that you can't really prepare for. I mean, you can to an extent, and certainly we have. I mean, the police train for it, and employees train for it, and everybody trains for it. But it's the kind of thing where you can't look at the map of the United States and say, this city is where it's going to happen next, and in fact it's going to be this elementary school or this mall or whatever. That's the random element that you can't predict. We don't know where the next Columbine is going to be, is why we're not going to prevent it. If we did know for certain which city, which state, and which school it's going to be, then we could take measures. But we don't. And that's why there's going to be another one of these disasters, is because we don't know where it's going to be, so we can't take the appropriate steps. Because it's truly random. If it weren't random, we would have dealt with it. Anyway, I don't want to talk in a circle there for too long. My point is, I need to address something else if I'm going to talk about how violence is decreasing. That's why are people surprised to find that out? If violence has been decreasing for this long, you'd think it'd be common knowledge, and it's not. Why is that? And there actually is a good reason for that. I don't like good guy, bad guy dichotomies. I don't like pointing and saying that one thing is the problem, because that, of course, leads to the idea that, and if we fix that one thing, everything would be peachy, and life is never that simple. But in this case, there really is a reason for it. I don't want to say a villain or a bad guy, because they're not really trying to be asshats about it. It just kind of happens naturally out of the industry. The media sensationalizes things, not because there's some sort of conspiracy to create panic or because they're inherently bad people that work in the newsrooms, but just because that's what news coverage does organically. Because the news is entertainment like any other entertainment. And so, hang on, Okay, sorry, Darian was teasing Nikki about her hula hoop apparently. But anyway, the media, it's their job to sensationalize. That's what they do. Not because they're evil, but because they need to sell toothpaste commercials. The media is an industry, and it's an entertainment industry. The CBS News wants you to watch the CBS News instead of the NBC News, and the NBC Nightly News wants you to watch the NBC News instead of the CBS News. And this translates across the board to magazines, newspapers, online news articles, and so forth. It's all clickbait. It's been clickbait since the 20s. That everybody wants you to watch their show so that they get the ratings, so that they sell the ads, so that they can feed their families. This isn't some evil plot. It's just, as the saying goes, it's just business. Okay, so it's the media's job to sensationalize things, and in order to keep that stranglehold and keep the edge over their competitors, things need to get more and more sensational. So what does the media do in a landscape where violence is on the decrease? Well, they need to really, really work hard on the violence that they have to work with. The saying in the industry is, if it bleeds, it leads. They need to make things look more and more spectacular, even if things are de-escalating. And this means that it gives the impression to the average news watcher that things are escalating when they're not. And then the byproduct of that is that when we're fed on this diet of sensationalism, people naturally tend to want to do sensational things because that's the standard. That's how society views things. Things that are more worthwhile are more sensational, and vice versa. So when you have a culture like that, when somebody wants to make a splash or stick it to the man or whatever the catchphrase is here, they're going to try to do something that is outrageous and violent and random. Okay? I don't quite understand this because half the time they end up killing themselves when they're done with this. So what good does it do them in the end? But we're dealing with insanity anyway, so making sense is not really a priority here. So, yeah, there are two things happening. One is that this kind of violence is becoming more notable as other kinds of violence are being de-escalated and other kinds of threats are being de-escalated. The other one is that there's more of a push to do things that are crazy and random. People are doing it for the drama. The one other thing that comes into play here, and this is a controversial point, so call me out in the comments. This is why this series is called Questionable Wisdom. When somebody wants to do something crazy and random and violent, where are they going to go? If you are the mad gunman, probably you don't have a lick of sense in your head, but if you can think at all, and you are the mad gunman, where are you going to go? Are you going to go to a military base and start shooting? It's not going to do very well. Are you going to go outside the police station and start shooting at the cops? You could try that, but it's not going to be big news because you're not going to hit anything before you're eating gravel. So you got to find some place where there's lots of people, but no one can fight back, where they're all just fish in a barrel. Some place where people gather, but there's no weapons. Aha! I know a place where there's lots of people and no weapons. Schools, malls, shopping centers, places like that. Which I still stand by what I said. Armed guards are not really the solution because by the time they are in a position to react, something bad has already happened. So it's never going to be a preventative measure. Putting armed guards in all the schools will not create a situation where nobody ever gets killed again. And similarly, any other place, just putting guards there won't completely fix the problem. But what is happening is that we advertise that we have unarmed ourselves. That's what emboldens the bad guys to come in without fear of retaliation, at least in their own minds. So, is the solution more weapons? Not really. But I still think that we're kind of going about it backwards. We're seeing a lot more random violence, unaccountable violence, and we're responding to that, or at least that was kind of reactionary. I'm sorry. There is a movement of people who want to respond to this by taking away people's means of defending themselves. Now, this is a much more nuanced problem than this. I'm not going to get into what a specific model of gun is designed to do and what its relative advantages are in defense, mainly because I'm not a gun guy. I don't know enough about guns to know why one type of gun is better at stopping an intruder than another and why one type of gun is better at stopping a mad bomber than another. I'm not educated to speak on that. And if somebody is, have a go in the comments. Please let me know what the merits of various guns are and what guns are not good for self-defense and why. And I'll certainly listen. I'm not a gun guy, so I'm not likely to educate myself on this. If you want to give me a quick rundown, that would be useful, or point me at a video that would do so. But, okay, so what's the point? Well, the point is this video is just kind of a CYA because I said violence is going down and we should be proud of the fact that it's safer now. In reaction to this phenomenon of more school shootings. And how does that make sense? Well, it doesn't, but they're both true. Violence is going down and more random violence is breaking out. What I think is that the random violence is a societal ill that needs to be dealt with on an individual societal basis. All of us need to be kind to one another. And if we address it by legislation and rallies and the evening news, these translate to a crazy person's mind at that moment that he snaps as a ticker tape parade. Now somebody who's got it into their heads to go and hurt somebody realizes, hey, when those guys in Columbine did it, they hurt a bunch of people and now they're famous. When that guy in the Oklahoma City blew up that place, he hurt a bunch of people and now he's famous. If I go to a place where there's a lot of people that can't defend themselves and I hurt lots and lots of people, that will be fame. That will be power. That will be good. That's the image that we're sending with the huge media glut that we've gotten here. This is a serious problem. But when you draw attention to it, I think you escalate the problem. I don't think the news is trying to glorify these people. Again, this isn't a good guy, bad guy dichotomy. They're not bad people. They're just trying to sell toothpaste, okay? But it's true what P.T. Barnum said, that any publicity is good publicity. Coca-Cola has gotten a great deal out of a lot of bad publicity they've had over the years. A lot of other companies have too. And right now, terrorism is doing that. Right now, terrorism is benefiting from a lot of negative publicity. And that's something that we have to stop. Here's the thing. You can't just write to a news anchor and say, hey, please stop covering the shootings. They're going to cover whatever people want to consume. So here's the thing. As a consumer of news media, what are you consuming? And that's something that each of us have to ask, again, on the individual level. What is it that we're telling the news outlets that we want to hear? And if you want to hear about mass shootings, you can be sure that there will be more of them.